This is The Unstarving Musician. I am your host, Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with indie music artists and industry professionals and me, all intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Welcome to another episode. It is a pleasure to be in your ears today. Thank you. I humbly thank you. The Unstarving Musician is made possible, by the way, through the generosity of listeners just like you. And there are many ways that you can support us, including joining the Unstarving Musician community, which is free. And you get a bunch of tips and insights by joining in your inbox. Unsubscribe at any time. You can also visit our resources page for deals with Unstarving Musician affiliate partners, including Amazon, Bandzoogle, and many more. Or you can pick up a copy of my book, The Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs. You can even become a producer sponsor of the show. That sounds pretty cool. It is. It's super cool. It's the ultimate way to support us. But all these ways are great. So to learn more about the many ways of offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor. My guest for this episode is multi-instrumentalist and studio engineer Chris Raspante. He has and continues to be prolific and in demand as a performer and sound engineer. He's also my friend. In this conversation, we discuss his return to performing live, the logistics of recording remotely, our work together on my song On Top of the World, which will be released January 8th of this coming year, 2021, and why he thinks his phone is always ringing, so to speak. Chris is regularly solicited for hire on various music projects. We recorded this conversation in October of 2020, which was during one of the COVID pandemic peaks. This is actually our third conversation for the podcast, including another yet-to-be-released episode. Chris was first featured in episode 2 of The Unstarving Musician. This was a happy hour conversation of sorts, as we recorded during the evening hours over a few beers. That was fun. As I told Chris, we definitely need to chat more often, because I enjoyed this chat so much. My wife and I can't wait to see him play live again when we can all travel safely. And maybe I'll even have an opportunity to sit in on drums or something. We'll see. Okay, here's me and Chris Raspante. I see you have some upcoming gigs with our friend JCD, John Christopher Davis, coming soon.
Yeah, here in Texas, I guess they started opening up some stuff as far as gigging a little more. So I've definitely noticed, I do a solo acoustic thing and duo and trio stuff, and then play with John and some other stuff. And as soon as they did that, my phone started ringing off the hook as far as, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you play? So,
nice.
The month of October. Yeah. So it's good and bad. It's still scary because, this stuff hasn't gone away, but, I think people, for better or for worse, are just kind of tired of it. So they're trying to figure out ways to navigate it. So it's good for work, but you just still have to be very careful what you choose to do, and where and how you do it. But yeah, I mean, my month of October is completely booked with studio stuff and live gigs.
Nice. I saw there, at least the ones I saw were outdoors, so that's encouraging given the current climate for gigging.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're all outdoors. It's just that, some are a little close quarters, a little more close quarters than others, even though they are all outdoors. But yeah, so we're all just, doing what we can.
Nice. And I want to ask you about the recording stuff that you've been doing, but we'll get to that in a minute. I was also kind of curious, just because I'm from the area, but not familiar with the venue. I've been, not living in the area quite a while, because we were in San Jose, California for 17 years before we ended up here in Panama now, having rolled past 4 years. So it's been a while, but the town square gazebo of Grapevine, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was another one that was truly, I got the call to do it like just a few days ago. It was just like, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, I think I'm open. Okay, great. It's this time to this time, and here's this, and yeah, we'll see you there. You know, yeah, it's a Grapevine is a cool little town, and they have a that cool main street, that strip, with the cool restaurants and stuff. And then there's a downtown area that has like a gazebo and kind of grassy area and hangout area. And I guess they have bands and acts play on the gazebo, like playing, out to the kind of common public area where people can hang. And that's what this is going to be. It's going to be, like an acoustic duo from 6 to 8, just a 2-hour thing.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, nice.
Those are always fun.
That's cool. And so you said your phone kind of started ringing off the hook when the gigs came available, when they started happening again, which I know sounds like it was very recent. Just kind of curious, was that just many months or years of word of mouth, or have you done some things to kind of promote yourself, or have you been seen enough times in various configurations and people know who you are and you always make it known that you're available to do solo gigs, or you've got this trio, or how did you get so in demand?
Yeah. Good question. Well, sometimes it feels like I'm not in demand. And then others, it's like I don't seek stuff out and people just call. I think it's a combination of everything, I mean, since this is 4 years since we moved back from Nashville to here. This August was 4 years. And so, just all this time of just trying to do your thing and do it well, and, getting your name back out in the scene, I think helps, and has been helping this whole time. And I was doing, before COVID hit, I was doing quite a bit, of the acoustic stuff. And I hooked up with, there's a booking agency here in Dallas-Fort Worth called 13th Floor. And they have like a lot of booking people under the umbrella of the name and company 13th Floor. I think everybody is they're like independent, but they all, can, work under the name, and they, each one of them kind of has the places that they book and the people that they book a lot. And in the last several weeks, probably the last couple of weeks of September and then this month of October, one of the guys that books there, well, I guess more than one, a couple of them, just started calling me and was like, I think actually the first time they called or texted me, it was, hey, they're opening Texas back up. So I've got, all these gigs where people are needing, solo acoustic is a really big thing because it's easy and the money is obviously lower than trying to get a band, and, it's a little easier to put on, and so that's real popular around here. And since I do a lot of that, so I started getting calls and texts like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? I mean, it was truly just, once it happened, I was getting calls like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to play gigs Friday and Saturday, which is, usually, is not, that soon, but that just kind of shows you how much of a demand there was for just, entertainment in general. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it was good that I was, I'd kind of prove myself to these guys and some other places, that like, hey, you can call him and he'll show up and,
yeah, got a good reputation.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, just, show up and do your thing, So yeah, so I mean, it's crazy. So, I mean, again, I guess it's, like my friend Jay says, lucky beats smart, sometimes.
Who says that, JCD?
But, I guess, no, Jace Everett.
Oh, Jace.
one of his sayings there.
Lucky beats smart.
Yeah, it's, it's luck and it's skill and it's, hustling, and it's always a combination of everything.
Yeah.
It's like you try to do everything to make stuff happen. And then there's always a big, hefty, dose of luck in there that kind of, usually is the final factor in all of it, So yeah, I've been glad, I've been lucky and glad that it's, that it's happening.
Yeah, that's great. I heard, I don't know if it's been a couple years now, but I heard this, he's a researcher mostly, I think, but he's kind of in the startup world and academia world. But he had this expression called "who luck," and it refers to the people that we know and some of the luck that collides with the people we know, us in life, I guess. But I do like Jace's so luck beats smart sometimes. That's great.
Lucky beats smart.
Lucky
most of the time.
That's nice. I was thinking it reminds me of another one of that JCD said, which and it was mostly the sincerity with which he said it, or maybe sincerity is not the right word. It could be more of the inflection, the tone of his voice when he said. He's like, man, the thing is the music business is not a talent competition, and some people just don't understand that. This coming from a guy who's clearly pretty darn talented, but I thought that was funny. So,
well, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I won't expand on that. I'll just agree. I'll agree and just say yes. That is correct.
I was going to comment. Maybe went in reverse order here because we started talking about your gigs right away, but you were episode number 2 for anyone who's listening, and we did that back on the 4th of May of 2017 is when we did the interview. I don't have the actual published date of the episode in front of me, but that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow, was it that long ago? Man.
Yeah, long enough, right? And I was poking fun at myself with you the other day when we were talking about doing this part 2, 100, and I guess we're 100 and dang, what am I, almost 180 episodes in? That's pretty cool. But we talked for about 20 minutes, and I was like, Chris, I'm not recording. I'm so sorry. But you were super nice about it, and for some reason, I want to say that you were actually the first interview I conducted, and for whatever reason, I might be able to. Not that anybody cares, but it's something that's kind of funny to me because you ended up being episode 2. And I actually went back and listened to episode 1 just this last week. I kind of reposted it. It's with a guy named Mike Dawson, who's a phenomenal musician, drummer, and he's the managing editor at Modern Drummer magazine. And I need to go back. I will go back and listen to ours pretty soon, probably. You actually, by the way, have had a very popular episode. You're, among the most listened to. I don't know if I ever told you that, but which may worry you for me about the podcast. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But
wow. Now I'm nervous.
Well, what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. I was going to comment on listening back to episode 1 because I've listened to some of my interviewing, from back then, and you do 150 or plus, and start getting a little better at it, right? But I went back and listened, and I was like, God, that wasn't bad. But I had he was both of you guys were great, great guests to have on. I arguably knew you a little better than Mike Dawson. I'd never met him in person, and I think that was kind of a cold outreach, but he's a nice guy as well. So yeah, episode 2, and I'm glad that we're doing it again. I am dying to talk to you about, not the entire rest of our conversation here, but I'm dying to talk to you about, for my own selfish reasons, about doing the recording that you helped me with for my song that's yet to be released completely into the wild, On Top of the World. And, well, first of all, thanks for being part of it, because it was awesome to have you playing on it. And, well, if I back up a little bit, it was really awesome to have you interested in doing anything on it, but it's great to have you playing on it. And I just sort of rolled the dice hoping that you might be interested in, helping with the mixing and all that stuff. And I think it came out really nice.
Well, you're welcome, and my pleasure. Yeah, I thought it came out really well. I mean, not toot my own horn, but I mean, just from from talking about your song, point of view. Yeah, I thought it was cool. It's always fun, and it is kind of it's a roll of the dice for me to do those. And I guess we should explain a little more to the people that don't know. Like you did what a lot of people have done with me, especially during these times where I think you sent me just an acoustic guitar and a vocal, and gave me like I guess maybe a tempo, and said, here, it's at this tempo, and here's a vocal and guitar. Now, put a song around it. So then I think I built a track around that, and then we just kind of went from there, kept, building and replacing tracks, and just kind of built it up, and it's always fun and challenging, and, an adventure and all that. But yeah, I think it progressed nicely and went through all these different stages with getting different people to play on it, because, when in the early stages, I think it was mainly all me. And then I think we, then you put drums on it, then we had somebody put bass on it, and then, kind of went from there. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah.
That was probably the longest long distance one I've done since you're down there. And I'm here.
Yeah. And it was my first foray into recording at home, and it's not technically the first time I've ever tried to write anything, but honestly, it's like the first legitimate try, and I wanted to do it for real and, create something that was publishable, which is one of the reasons that I contacted you. But also, the main reason that I contacted you was I really like your playing, and I love your voice, even though we didn't get your voice on there. I know we could have had I bugged you enough, to do some more stuff on it. But you did a lot, like you said, you did a lot of instrumentation on it. I was actually blown away when I got the first, demo from your site. I send you a demo and you send me back an enhanced demo, and I'm like, wow, listen to all this stuff that's on there. And it was really great. So, but yeah, there were a couple things that were interesting about it for me, on top of all the okay, I got to figure out how to record drums. I've never even done this before. I know just kind of a little bit about it. Probably the bigger challenge was the technicalities of, working with an audio interface and working with Pro Logic and understanding some of the little nuances of giving you, things that I needed to make sure I was doing so that you had a track that, you can work with easily. But the other interesting thing was that, yes, you were getting busy, and then this guy who ended up doing bass for us, Steve Strom, he's a kind of a longtime bandmate from the San Francisco Bay Area. I didn't even know he was set up to record at home. I knew he's a phenomenal musician, and he was literally at the top of my list, along with our mutual friend Neil, to put bass on it. I didn't even think to ask him, but one day he sends me this track and goes, "Hey man, would you be interested in putting some drums on this?" This is after you and I started on mine. But the interesting thing, even for Steve, because he's, the musician that he is, and he's so getting into recording, which I think might be kind of new for him too, but he's having so much fun with it, that I was fascinated by how quickly you can get into in this thing where you're in people's queue. So part of our progression, like when working with you, which for me, you were linchpin to the whole thing, right? You've done this wonderful guitar and other instrumentation, and you're basically bringing the song to life because you're doing all the stuff in your studio with it. And you're busy, so I'm in your queue, and then Steve's got some stuff he's given me, and suddenly he's in my queue, and then I'm in his queue to get to get some bass. And that was, I don't know, it might sound kind of mundane, but it was nice that everyone's busy, and it was also like, oh, these are the logistics of putting together a single track. And I start imagining what it's like and understanding even better than what I did about what it takes to put together a full album. Because I always think with albums, when they take a lot of time or they take much longer than expected, I know that one of the things that interferes with that is just life, because stuff happens, right? And it might delay, and people have conflicts. But is that anything that you ever think about anymore? You've been doing this as far as recording a long time. Do you think about that stuff anymore at all, or do you ever find it at times frustrating, or it's just like, you've learned to manage it and it's just how it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides of it. You can look at it as if you're just an engineer, a musician getting paid by the hour or whatever, which actually I don't do a whole lot of things by the hour. I tend to do them by the song or by the project because it just seems to work out easier.
Sure.
And helps the people out that I'm working for.
I love that. I love that. By the way, and we're friends, so I know you sort of like went easy with me, and you were actually interested in what I was doing. But I love that for anyone who's listening who does recording, and I think that anybody that does freelance anything, my God, I love by the project pricing. I hate by the hour pricing.
Well, I mean, it can go both ways, I mean, there's been times where, I mean, people can, if they abuse it, then it's kind of hard because if I, did something based on like, okay, for this much money, I can give you, a finished product or a track or whatever, or get you to this point and then we'll do the mix later or whatever. And, a lot of times that's great. I mean, because, a lot of my expertise can be how quickly I can lay tracks. And so, if I can get something done quickly on my end, well, then that kind of works well for me. If I just said, hey, I can do it for this much, because all you care about as a client is that you're getting a good product, and you don't really care. It doesn't matter to you if I spent several days or if I did it in the evening, if it sounds great, as far as how long it took me to do my parts, if I can one take guitar parts and, versus, doing 100 takes to get something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have had some people where, they can kind of, wear you out with, revisions and tweaks and wanting you to try different stuff or do this and all that. And, sometimes with that, I'm just like, hey, we got to remember you're getting this for X amount of dollars. So, like we're not making Sergeant Pepper's, where, I'm going to spend weeks and months on this track, for that amount of money, so as long as that doesn't happen, and that doesn't happen that often, then it's great. And because I hate watching the clock, and again, you're when you're working on your own time, it's just kind of scattered and you aren't watching the clock, and you might do some, I might work during the day and then stop, do dinner and come back later in the evening and finish up something. And, I'm not sitting there counting the hours and trying to figure out, I just know that, hey, I need to get this done by Monday morning. I need to get this done by Friday, and that's a lot easier a lot of times for me to deal with than to do something and then, present somebody with, well, let's see, on Monday I worked from 11 a.m. until 1:30. I took a 30-minute break and then I went, it's really hard to do. So I tend to not do that.
I understand.
Yeah. So I have, getting with the frustrating part, I don't like to slave. I like to work hard on things, and there's definitely people I work with that we work hard on tracks and mixes and tweaking stuff and getting stuff right. And, and that's cool because, especially when the track keeps getting better, and you refine it, and that's awesome. In general, I don't like to work on something, for too long, just because I think sometimes things, maybe the excitement and just the overall just vibe of something can, not always, but it can diminish when stuff gets drawn out, especially when you have to work in spurts, like you're saying. I mean, some people they have day gigs or whatever, and they can only, I've been working with one particular group, where one song has taken multiple sessions, because it's like, hey, we can only work at night, from like 6 o'clock until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and so you're trying to find little spots and times, around everybody's schedule. So, one tune you might have to get together 5 or 6 times, in sessions like that to finish it up. And that can, that can kind of be a little wearing sometimes, or I hope it doesn't, I hope that everybody involved is still excited and you still have that magic and just that kind of, that thing in the track that you can hear when people are still fresh and all that, So yeah, it's definitely, it's something that you have to kind of think about when you're making records and recording tunes and all that. And yeah, when I have my, when it's up to me, I would rather, it's like, let's get as many people as we can playing, at once, and let's get it down fairly quickly so we can kind of hear quickly how the track is sounding and if it's working or not, because then you can kind of make decisions based on, okay, is this working? Is it not? Okay, what's not working about it? And you can quickly kind of change how you're doing things to make it better versus, track by track, brick by brick, and where it takes a long time before you finally go, you know what? I don't think this is the right way to do this song, after, days of doing things one thing at a time before you reach that, that decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's how the sausage is made, so to speak, that you, after years of doing it, you kind of learn like how things work better than other ways and all that. And you just, but I mean, life tends to get in the way and dictate how you do a lot of stuff. So you just have to kind of roll with it. And if that's the only way that you can get something done, then that's what you do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of pieces of what you just said is a really smart approach for you is when you're being the guy in the studio that's bringing the recording to life like you do. And I, even on this, being the first time I'd have really done something at this level, I was conscious of the fact, well, I had a sentiment that you'll probably appreciate, even though at times it might not have seemed like this, but I didn't want to beat things to death. Sometimes good enough was enough, you know what I mean? And I had to do that with myself, and then there were things like, I might go, I might, do that a little different, but I was trying not to drag it out more, and I'm like, this actually sounds really good. Just let it be like it is, and also like my friend Steve who played bass for us. I'm not sure. I might be one of the first people that he's collaborated with because he's a multi-instrumentalist like yourself, and he's actually pretty good at programming drums. I learned. He sent me a track that had some pretty nice programmed drums on it, yet he was asking me to put some drums on it, and I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. But he has taken on this attitude of, I think I'm learning that it's better to invite people in and let them bring their own thing to it. So I think I was, without having heard that from him, I was thinking to myself, it's like, I think this is really good to let you in particular to bring your thing in it. And you were really nice about like, what is it that you're, what are you kind of looking for? What style are you thinking? And so it was great. I enjoyed it a lot working with you. Do you want to hear what people have thought about, people that have had a preview of the song have said about it?
Sure.
Two things I got to tell. Two things I got to tell you.
I hope sure.
Yeah. Well, I will say I was gonna say 2 things I'll tell you they don't comment enough on is the awesome mixing on it and the drumming. But that's actually, to be honest, I probably had a few more. Well, when anytime anybody says it sounds great, which I've had a lot of those, of course, and it's mostly biased because it's people in my circle, extended or close, so they'll say that anyway because it's mine. But they are commenting on the mix, and thank God the vocals were passable, because that's one of the first things people really notice, right, in a song. I think whether they're they're horrible or not. And if they're decent, it's like, yeah, it's pretty good, man. But the things that I wanted to share with you that I thought you might get a kick out of are when people said, "Wow, it reminds me of," fill in the blank. So here's some of the ones. So first, let me tell you, I'll share with people that maybe haven't heard this before who will listen to this recording, that when I gave you the song, I thought, I was thinking of this kind of Who's Next vibe, referring to the Who album, and I was thinking that sort of Townsend guitar, and I actually thought at the time I was going to try and do this aggressive drumming on it, only to find out later, it's like, God, I've not been practicing enough. I better just sort of like do what I can and try and nail a good track. But so nobody has said anything about the Who when they listen to it, but I've had, I think one of the first things I heard, which was my first sentiment, was, wow, that a little bit, and it's mostly your solo for me. I thought, well, it sounds kind of like a Tom Petty song. Nothing to do with my voice, but I got that comment from probably a couple of people. I got, this one really...
I'll take that compliment.
Yeah, right? That's what I've said. I've said, you know what? I'll take it. That was probably one of the first ones I got. And actually, I got this from two different people. One of them is our now mutual friend, Rex Brown. He said, it reminds me of something of Bowie's. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that too. And then I got, yeah, right? And then...
Good company.
Yeah, right? And then our other mutual friend, although I'm not exactly sure what part, but he said there was a vocal line in there that reminded him of Robert Plant, which is a, super nice, for anyone to say that about me. And then I also had, what was the other one? Oh, I got probably more than anything, and this one tickled me the most, and it may you too, Rush.
Really?
Yeah, and you know what? I finally figured out what it was. I finally figured out what it was about it. It's the bass line, that the very first maybe few bars of the bass, I think, and something about the way the drums and the bass are playing together. Not that there's anything remotely resembling Neil Peart, but I think that's why people said that.
No, I can hear that, because actually when I did get that bass track and mixed it in and was obviously listening to it, and I was, and the tone and some of the lines and stuff, I was like, that's fairly Getty-ish, but, in a good way, in a cool way, obviously. So yeah, I can see that. Well, cool. Well, and I'll take the Petty thing all day long, because Mike Campbell is one of my favorite guitar players. And even the older I get, I find I like him more and more, and I probably, borrow, for lack of a better word, more and more things from him, as far as like what I think he would, do, because it's usually a pretty safe bet to, when you approach a song, to think, what would Mike Campbell do? Because he's such a great, playing for the song, and just, his, economy, I guess is the right word, maybe, of notes, and just getting the job done with just the right amount of notes.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, as you know, I've been doing this project with Stan Lynch, one of his ex-bandmates from the Heartbreakers.
Another amazing musician.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been great. And I can tell you more about that project too. But Stan definitely, because Stan is, was there for all those records, and has definitely, been in front of, and worked with all these producers and stuff, and obviously with Mike, and that just gets drilled into you more than anything. It's like, it's the song, it's the arrangement. Don't step on the vocals. Don't step on other parts. The solo needs to be something that's memorable, and it doesn't need to be this, you don't need to be just noodling, shredding, whatever. I mean, and there's obviously times when there's music where that's what it's all about, and that's fine. But, for most 3-minute, 4-minute pop songs that you're going to hear and listen to and play on, it's definitely about that. And he's all about that. But definitely taught me a lot. And the funny thing is, the more I'm around him and do tracks for him and work on, collaborative tracks and all that, it's like, wow, yeah, I start catching myself doing stuff that's like, that's a little Campbell sounding, but it's like, hey, if I start defaulting to somebody's playing, fine. Again, I'll take that. I'll take, hopefully sounding like him, over a lot of people, so that's been cool. But I definitely think it's a positive, because it's helped my playing, as far as, and just with everything, and just how you approach and you record, and even other instruments. And when I record other people and working on other people's songs, even when I'm recording somebody's vocal, and I mean, you automatically start thinking that way, as far as like trying to look at the big picture and just trying to guide people as far as like, yeah, this, let's get this thing, let's get the arrangement right, because that is there's an old saying somewhere, can't remember where I first heard it, but the best way to have an awesome sounding mix is to have a great song, and it's true. I mean, it's, if you have a great song and a great singer and a great arrangement, it's just, it's like, it's funny how the mix just tends to come together and sound awesome, and I'm saying that, kind of sarcastically, but I mean, it's true, because just things just tend to happen and just kind of fall into place. And you don't have to fight stuff when all of those things are in place first, when it's a well-written song and the singer is good, and all the parts, all the guitar parts, everything is, arranged really well and just really fit with each other. It's almost like you can just push the faders up and the mix is almost there, versus when it's not, and you're just, before you even try to massage the track from a sonic standpoint, you're just automatically, going into repair mode. And what I call, hammer and screwdriver mode, where I'm like, okay, put the hard hat on, and I'm got to go in there and I got to fix stuff and move stuff around and edit stuff, and, to get it to be right, before I even get creative and artistic with the sonic things I'm going to do,
Speaking of that, moving things around. So was thinking about this, I don't know, a few weeks ago, as time slips by, and I'm trying to figure out how to release something. And I'm actually, by the way, you might be interested to know, I've scripted a video for the song, and I'm fortunate to have a nice videographer here locally, and probably access to some nice locations, which is lucky given the pandemic situation. But I'm hoping we're gonna, and I had to get, I'm not doing like a music performance video, and in fact I'm gonna kind of be a cameo in the video, but I have an actual young heroine, not heroine is an actress, hero, actress who will be the primary character in the video. But damn, where was I going?
Now
with
I
that?
got to go back and really check the mix.
Oh, I think
you're going to get all serious about this thing. I mean, wow.
Well, yeah, one of the things I was told by a good friend who actually is in the DFW area with you. His name's Ezra Van Sil, and I really respect him as a songwriter. And I've seen, when I first met him, I saw some videos he did, and we just got to talking about how he pulls them together. Because I'm like, how do you pay for these people? We talked about all that stuff, and so one of the things he said to me was, I've never had, because I've been asking for a little advice on releasing it and doing it the best way I can. And one of the things he said was, I've never had much luck when I didn't have a video with it. And for some reason, though, I had in my mind that I would do a video with it. So I'm not even sure I went with that whole thread where I intended to, but there it is.
No, no, believe me, I really hope you can edit this, because I feel like I'm just rambling about just, going off on tangents about stuff. So
not at all. I know what I wanted to ask you.
Cohesive.
Well,
Okay.
it has nothing to do with the fact that, well, I decided that we should make it a happy hour episode, and I'm actually imbibing as we talk, and you said you beat me to the punch because you didn't see my message until you'd already had a virtual happy hour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
well, that's how crazy it's been. I had to schedule a virtual happy hour with some Austin friends. Yeah.
nice.
From 5 o'clock until 7, and then we're doing our thing. So
Squeezed me in.
yes, I'm a couple in, probably ahead of you, but that's all right. I'll wait till you catch up, and then we'll go together.
I'm probably good with 2 tonight, and so I can get through this. But what I was going to ask you, I remembered a few weeks ago I was thinking about, I don't know, I was thinking about the recording process or whatever, but I remember when I did the drum track, I remember intentionally doing this, trying to play, behind the beat that we'd established on purpose, and then I sent it out to a couple of people that I, outside of you, just to have. I wanted to get some outsider perspective, so I sent it to a couple of other guys who have some recording experience, and musicians like yourself, established musicians. And one of them has a good body of work as an engineer and producer, and I think both of them might have said this. I'm not sure, but they're like, it's kind of weird. I don't know if you did it. Well, it wasn't weird. It was like, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but it's like you're slightly behind the beat. And I was like, oh yeah, I did do that on purpose. And I guess in the back of my head, I was a little worried about it. So anyway, I mentioned it to you when we're doing this all by email and, Dropbox and what WeTransfer and whatever. But I was curious to know, I remember saying to you, I would love for it to stay that way. And then afterwards, I'm thinking, so I just asked him to basically move everything or redo his part or whatever. So do you remember if you ended up moving either my drums a bit or moving your parts a bit?
I probably at some point went to the track and like what I will normally do. I'm trying to think how I can describe this. Well, there's different situations. If I know it's going to be something where people are putting on their parts from various remote places, and so everybody's kind of needs to be on the click, versus like a band where everybody's playing at once and they're all interacting with each other, and you have kind of a basis for being either on top of the beat or behind the beat, because that's kind of one thing. There's a little bit of a myth, I think, involved with that, because you have to establish the beat first,
right,
to have something where it sounds like it's either, ahead or behind the beat.
Which we kind of did. Tell me if we did. We kind of did that with the tempo of the song. And you actually put a drum track, a basic drum track on there that you'd programmed or whatever, right? Or maybe you played a drum kit. I don't know, but we established that at the beginning, right?
Yeah, because I think originally the track started off. You sent me the guitar and the vocal, and then I programmed some drums, which obviously are going to be right on the grid, and then just did the kind of a mock up, and then we started replacing stuff, But yeah, I think it's hard with drummers, I think, because, in the end, nobody's listening to the listener in the end is not going to hear the click. So they're just going to hear you. So if they're just listening to you, other than individual elements, like if your hi-hat, and I'm going to get really nerdy if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that going to, okay. As a drummer, if your kick drum and your hi-hat are pretty much, you're staying to the click, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're maybe laying your snare down a little bit behind the beat, then I think as a listener, that's something you can comprehend and go, oh yeah, he really, plays behind the beat. Like his snare drum is always a little bit on the backside.
And that was my intention, by the way. Hopefully that's what happened.
And that's cool. But I think when people try to do that with their whole track, then either if you keep doing that, obviously it just translates into dragging.
Yeah.
Like you're slowing down, obviously.
Right.
But if you're but the thing is, if you don't have a point of reference of time, because you're listening to the click and you can see the grid, and if you're playing slightly behind it the whole time, well, what happens is as soon as you take the grid and the click away, I can't tell, there's no point of reference. So then if you're just consistently behind the beat, well, then now it just sounds, when you take away the reference, now it just sounds like you're on the beat, because, you know what I mean? I don't know. None of us know. We don't have a reference anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Am I losing you, or does that make sense?
No, and I think it was a couple of nerds that caught it. I mean, like sound, musician nerds that caught it.
Because what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is you're going to play your drum track, and let's say you're listening to the click, and you're always playing consistently right behind the click. So if you hear the click and hear your drum track, you can say, yeah, he plays behind the beat. But the thing is, as soon as you get rid of the click track and you start putting other instruments on there, and let's say me as a bass player, as a guitar player, well, now I'm going to play to your drum track. So I'm going to try to be as on with you as I can. So now when you hear the finished product of just your drums with everybody else playing to you, well, now there is no behind the beat as far as from a drummer standpoint, because it was just always slightly behind, but consistently behind. So you take that away, and now everybody's playing right on your beat. So now there is no reference to tell that you're playing behind the beat, unless something specific within your kit you're putting behind, so that we can hear it, to compare. Hence the snare behind your kick and hi-hat.
Yeah, and I'm realizing now that the people that heard that and made the comment, they were listening to the original bass that you had put on there. But after we took that away and gave it to a bass player who could, as you're saying, basically listen to the song in a new context and say, okay, maybe he notices or he doesn't, or it's subconscious, like his snare's slightly behind the beat, but I'm following him and sort of thinking about the guitar and all that, and suddenly the reference has changed. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, like that's a great example of that being a real thing, where it's, if we kept my bass part that was played to the original drum machine, that obviously is going to be like a clock right on, and then you put yours on there, and then then it works when you have that reference, that contrast, when you hear the original bass really being on the beat, but then your drums are behind it. Yeah, that's when you can actually sense that something is behind. And I guess that's probably a long-winded way of trying to explain the myth to hopefully some musicians out there, that will help somebody. Because I mean, I have run across that before, and I've had to kind of explain that to people, like, well, really, like, and explain what we just, I probably spent way too long explaining, but
no, it's good.
But yeah, I mean, it's a thing that you have to consider, but yeah, that's the hard part. And I've seen people like do stuff first. The drag of it probably is like when you have to do things in a certain order. Let's say if drums are put on last, sometimes it can be kind of a shame, because like when people, especially like bass guitars and acoustics and that, they're very obviously percussive things, and there's a lot of time involved. And if somebody has to play to a click or to a drum machine, which is just working as a placeholder, and then, someone's going to put drums on later, as a player, as a bass player, as a guitar player, I would rather have the drums put on as soon as possible, so that I can play to the drummer, to the real drummer that's going to be on there for good, because that way I can groove and punch with him, and not, because the last thing you want is, you don't want the track to sound like the drummer put his on at the end, and that he's following everybody else.
Well, lucky I was going to say, lucky for me, I am a drummer who tends to. I mean, obviously, I have to play with and off of the bass, bass player live or whatever. But I've always paid a lot of attention to the guitar, so it's very natural for me to think about, because we did sort of do it backwards for my track. The drums almost did go on last, besides the bass track coming in. But it was very natural for me to listen to what you had done and think about. And now that we're talking about this, I realize that this came out a little bit differently on guitar than a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit differently than what I thought. I mean, you essentially, at the core, you were playing much more eloquently and skillfully the groove that I gave you on guitar, with your wonderful embellishments, but it was a little different than I'd expected. But fortunately for me anyway, I think, was that I really enjoy playing with and off of guitar players, so it was very, very natural for me. So I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, oh yeah, and probably now that I think back on it, I probably did go through the tracks and probably give them little helps and nudges here and there,
Sure.
to make them sound a little more cohesive, like we all did play at the same time, but that is completely normal. I mean, that's something that happens all the time, because I don't want it to sound like, you were, having to follow what was already there. I want you to be the star timekeeper, with anything. But a lot of times records are made that way. I mean, there's been several pretty famous records, is it Roxy Music Avalon? That's the famous, yeah. That, which is, I mean, it's a, masterpiece, classic album. And actually, I didn't know, I mean, if you listen to it, it does not sound like it, but actually that was a record that was done where everything was done in, first hand, as far as all the instruments and stuff. And I think it was done to a drum machine, and it actually had, I believe it was Andy Newmark that played drums on that. And he was the last thing to be put on there. And of course, this is back when there is no, I mean, this is all analog. There's no editing, in those times. But it says a lot. I mean, and Bob Clearmountain mixed that record. It's a famously sonic great record. And he said, that's really, you got to hand it to a drummer who can come in at the end and play, to existing tracks and make it sound like he was there from the beginning. Because, a not so great drummer could do that, and you listen to it and you're like, okay, well, now we need to redo the bass to match with the drummer, and we got to redo the acoustics to match with the drummer, because, his time is definitely, moving up and down, with the click or the drum machine, whatever. But I apparently they didn't have to do that. And same thing with you, there wasn't like major surgery, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah, thanks. I've experienced the difficulty that you described that can happen. Frank Salazar, another mutual friend of ours, did this track for me. That's the intro, outro music for this business podcast that I've done, and he programmed some nice drums for it. And so I've tried to put something new on it. And the style that he put on there is a lot different than what I would naturally play. So I just started playing around, and it's been really tough. I finally was like, I'm going to give him this, see what he thinks. Well, consequently, I haven't heard back from, that's not to say that he's not just busy, but I think, I'm like, I'm probably going to do it again until I send him something. He goes, hey, well, I like that. But it was hard. It was really hard. And maybe because it's, with my song, because it is my song, maybe it was a little easier, and I'd sort of anticipated a lot of the stuff. So I want to wrap up. We've been at it about an hour, and I want to let you get to the rest of your evening, but I wanted to make sure to ask you kind of about the business of your recording and mixing, engineering, mastering stuff that you do. You appear to be as busy with that as almost as you want to be, and with gigs the same, but on the recording side. And I think that you implied to me that the pandemic that is our world these days sort of drove up the demand a little bit. But there's another side of me that knows that you've been also in demand on that side. Has that been a lot like what you described when I asked you about getting all the gigs? Is it the same, or is there anything different about what you've done to build that business?
As far as building the studio business?
Yeah.
Well, I think it could kind of be the same in the sense that, really doing a great job, being good at what you do, or trying to be good at what you do, and being easy to work with, and just being out there on people's radars, that is always going to be the best advertisement for yourself, and that's really just what I've tried to do. I mean, I've tried to let people know that I'm here, that, and especially with like the mastering, that was something that I have done in the past, but this year I've done a lot more of it because I kind of, I let people know maybe a little more that I can do it, that it's a service I can provide, because it really does lend itself to the client not being in the room with you, which obviously in these times a lot of that has to be the case, where I am definitely burning up my my Dropbox folder with people just uploading and downloading stuff. I mean, I live by that thing, as far as just getting stuff sent and me sending stuff to people. And so, and obviously people were still making records, whether they're, making it in, commercial places, or if they're just making it at home. The mastering is something that people need, and especially if you're going to do vinyl, or if you're going to, release it on a CD or whatever. I mean, there's things that have to be done that, that need to be done by someone that knows how to do it. And so the mastering was something that I was able to help people out with. And so that got really busy, a lot busier. And then doing stuff like we did together, where it's, doing tracks remotely, where people are sending you stuff. And I have someone else I work with that I've done, probably half a dozen tunes or more. And it's the same thing. It's I'll get like a guitar and a scratch vocal or something like that, and then I'll build the track, and then put a final vocal on it, later. So it luckily, I mean, I can't believe it, and it's I keep going back to the lucky beat smart thing, but yeah, I mean, I've been really busy. I mean, almost this whole time. I mean, when COVID hit in March, I just got through, just finished a pretty big album or two, and then it hit, and something like, oh man, everything's going to shut down. I'm going to not be working forever. And there was, I mean, maybe a week or so where I wasn't doing anything, and people were kind of, figuring out what they were going to do. And then all of a sudden it was just a lot of clients just came out of the woodwork. And I think it was like, once everybody figured out what was going to be happening in their lives, it was like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything else, so I might as well get these tracks recorded that I've been meaning to do for a long time, or now's the perfect time to finish this record that I've been working on, So I think there was a lot of that stuff once people kind of got their lives in order. And man, yeah, I just, between the different people I work with, and then, got some new clients, it's been pretty busy this whole time. I mean, I haven't had a whole lot of downtime from March until now, and then and I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm saying this as humble and thankful, and as dumbfounded as anything, and that it has been that busy, but it really has. But I'm glad that I was able to switch to studio stuff, because I mean, the live gigs definitely went away. Yeah. I mean, they've gone and come back multiple times, where they went away, there was nothing, and then they kind of crept back, and then they went away again because numbers started rising, and it was like, okay, shut it all down again,
Yeah.
So we've all had to endure that where we just went, it went back to completely like, no, you're not playing a gig until, further notice, which could be months. So I was just very lucky and thankful that I was able to switch gears and, work out of my studio all these months. But yeah, so I just, try to keep doing good work and try to keep letting people know that I'm here and this is what I'm doing. And, I can do these things for you. And, luckily people have been, they continue to call. And so I'm, happy to do it. The older I get, the more I enjoy it, the more I, really enjoy sitting here. And, I enjoy the craft and I enjoy, doing it. So I guess I try not to take it for granted, the older I get.
I have a lot of admiration for the diversity of skill sets that you have developed and that it enabled you to make the shift, as you said. So it's really cool. And I guess two notes to leave our conversation on to I guess reinforce the quality of what you do, which I think speaks to why you're so busy. But the mastering aspect, I was listening to just my song that you worked with me on and did all that great stuff with the mixing and mastering. And I'd been listening to it a lot on headphones and, from my computer and then earbuds and the phone eventually. And then one day I went out and listened to it in my car, which I was dying to do. And I by no means have an awesome sound system in my car. But when I listened to it, I just wanted to know, is like, how does this sound compared to anything else I listened to the sonically? And I can tell you, it sounds like a pro, mastered it and mixed it and all that. So it was amazing. And the other thing, yeah, you're welcome. And the other thing is that I played it for my friend Rex Brown, who, played in was a bass player for Pantera, and he's had, now he has this burgeoning solo career. He's been in the business forever, and he took one listen to it, and I think this is as much a testament to your work as it is the song. He said, he says to me, do an album and we can, help you get it released. But, he also enjoyed your guitar playing, and I was like, can you put me in touch with that guy? I want to do some stuff with him in the future. And
that's cool.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I think
y'all are making me blush.
And I think that he knew, well, I'm not even sure he knew, but I told him at that moment, oh yeah. And he did, this is what he did, for the song. So, but yeah, that was the first thing. And I think I'm not sure, but I think he knew you were in the area that you're in, and he has some roots there. And that makes me, actually, you know what? I was listening back to, I have an interview that's publishing soon this week, actually, of an interview I did with Rex. And we were talking, I was asking him about going back out on the road, and he was talking about the difficulty. He's in New Mexico, and he was talking about the difficulties of, putting a band together, some of the challenges anyway. So he's taken one or two of the guys, hopes to take one or two of the guys back out on the road that he did last time for his first solo record, do the same on his new one that's coming out, maybe out by now as we're talking. But he said, I'm going to have to, get a drummer from outside the area. There's just nobody, not that there are no good players here, but I haven't found the guy that I would want to take on tour with me. And the whole time I was listening to that, I remembered Rex being in Arlington, and I'm like, I didn't say any, I was like about to get on my phone and like, dude, you should call this guy or this guy. But now that I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But now that we're talking, I'm like, he's not even in the area anymore. So he wasn't even talking about you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so he doesn't live in Arlington anymore. He's out in...
No, but you were obviously like, what's he talking about, dude? There's a lot of great drummers around here, but anyway.
Yeah.
But hey, thank you for, it's really great talking to you. I know it was kind of, one thing that was a little weird about working with you on the song is that we're communicating and it's fun. And sometimes it's just challenging trying to, understand each other. Not very often, but because we're doing it all by messenger and email and stuff. But it's really nice to just actually talk to you for a bit. I
know. We should do this more. Where we actually, it's well, not to go on another tangent, but it's amazing. I mean, when I look back, I've done so many tracks recently, and when I say, I mean, like in this past year, or whatever, or more, where it's the same thing, where I haven't actually physically spoken with the artist maybe during the whole process. It's like text and messenger and all that. And we'll do a whole, I'll master a whole album, or I'll do a whole, one track. Probably wouldn't do a whole album that way, but I've definitely done complete tracks for people where I'm like, wow, I didn't talk to them one time until they got the finished product, and they just called me to tell me whatever, but it's like, it was all this, communicating like this. It's a whole new world, it's a whole different world for us old guys to adapt to, but I mean, you get into it and it's been great. I mean, thank God we have the technology that we can do this,
Yeah, for me, I get to be a kid again, because this is all kind of new for me, because I haven't been recording all my playing life, and I've been playing forever, but I wasn't really virtually not doing any recording, so it was a really fun experience for me, and I do hope we get to work together some more. My wife Sammy and I both hope to get to see you play again soon, and Sammy, in fact, jokingly said before I came in the room to do the conversation and recording with you, she says, "Tell Chris I hope to see him play again someday before I die," jokingly, because of everything that's going on and travel restrictions and whatnot. So we hope to see you guys soon. I don't think we've met your wife Camille. Hope to meet her next time we're in town, and thanks again for spending time with me.
For sure. Well, no problem. Yeah. And we will definitely have to get together when all this stuff finally dies down or goes away, and we can, actually hang in person and do it in person happy hour.
Hey, absolutely cool, man. I look forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
This episode was powered by Bandzoogle, the easiest all-in-one professional website platform for musicians and bands. Two things that will help ensure you're in control of your music business and your fan-based community are a website and an email list. Bandzoogle can help you do both. Plus, a solid website makes you look legitimate. Serious musicians, singers, songwriters, composers, and performers know this to be true. If you don't yet have your own website, check out Bandzoogle. It was created by musicians for musicians. I use it and I love it. It's as easy to use gets, and you don't have to worry about plugin updates and security patches. Bandzoogle takes care of all that for you. The features and support are both incredible. See for yourself. Go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial and use the promo code Robonzo to get 15% off your first year. Plans start at just $8.29 a month. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code Robonzo, ROBONZO, to start your free trial today. This episode was powered by Convertkit. I have been a Convertkit user since early 2016, and I really love it for the email marketing aspects of what I do. It's more than just an email marketing company, though. They are focused on landing pages, too, giving beginner creators everything they need to start building their email lists. Their new free plan allows creators to make unlimited landing pages and forms, and you can choose from multiple templates, personalize them with design, include an incentive email, create a thank you page, manage all your subscribers, and of course send broadcast emails. The support is great, and that is important to me. To learn how ConvertKit can help you connect with your audience so that you can make a living doing work you love, go to unstarvingmusician.com/convert or the show notes for this episode. Did you know you can help other independent artists find this podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcast or wherever you are listening to your podcast these days? It really does help, so I hope you will consider it. And if you have feedback, please go to unstarvingmusician.com to get all my contact info. You can text me, call me, email me, leave a voice message right there on that page. Just go down to the bottom of the page and you'll find everything you need to know. I really would love to hear any of your comments, suggestions, questions, whatever you've got. And you can find links to just about everything talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. All right, I'm peacing out. Thank you for listening and sharing with your musician friends and fellow indie music fans. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.